talking really long time, just in the car there, about what I was doing, what she was doing. It turned out that she had recently, like a week before this, been the householder on a talk where the subject matter was dating worldly people or going on worldly dates.
Yeah, well, the double joke of it all is that you're worldly, but you're actually a worldly witness, just like her.
Yeah, so was she on a worldly date or not? Right?
Yeah, that could mess with your mind.
Question, So I didn't kind of know what to think right away. But I just at some point I said, well, I'm going to have to go home and let's just end this as a good date, and we started to get a little bit cuddly, actually we got out of the car and I was seeing her away and, I got a kiss in and stuff like that. So suddenly it wasn't about, the religion thing anymore. It was, we remembered we were on a date and it was a nice time and everything. And she said, she told me, you're really cute, and that kind of turned things back towards a more enjoyable subject than Jehovah's Witness world. And
so you had a strange but good first date?
Yeah. We're still in the class together, and we always seem to end up in the same, work groups and stuff like that. It was like a child development class or something like that. And so after that, we started talking on the phone a lot, started meeting her friends, dating more, boyfriend and girlfriend, and I thought that God was calling me back. All right, I thought it was a big, heavenly setup from God Himself that I had strayed. He wants me to come back to the organization. And of course, Joy, who was, as it turned out, she's living quite the double life for all of her life. There was never a time where she wasn't living a double life.
Wow, and here you were Mr. Goody-Goody for years and years and years. Yeah, stop reminding me of that. Actually, I think you still were at this point.
Yeah, of course. So, of course, she wants, I meet her parents and everything, and her parents love me, and I like them, and, not too long, she wants me to go to the meeting with her.
Oh, boy. Now, that's like crossing a line.
Yeah, so of course, the beard has to come off.
Oh, jeez.
Well, actually, I can't remember. I might have had the beard on still with the first couple of meetings, but it came off pretty quickly. And my hair was really long too, so I had to get that cut.
Yeah, but look, just when you thought you were out, they pulled you back in again.
Yeah, and it was a clean getaway for the most part. My family was not hardcore shunning me, but they, it was already enough to where it hurt me. Still, like when my brother said that about, Matthew, his first, year and a half or so, I was like the babysitter, every morning for little Matthew, and, to tell me that I couldn't, be part of his life in any, major way hurt, and my brother Danny, we played in bands together a lot, and he didn't want to do music anymore with me, and he didn't approve of other associates that I had and other musicians that I was working with. And so, you're talking about a man, my little brother, who's, like I say, I always say he's the other half of my heart, He was the number one person in it's my mom and my brother Danny.
Aww.
That are the biggest, parts of my heart still to this day, and losing them even a little bit was killing
And you're still with Joy?
Dating. What's that?
And you're still dating Joy?
Still dating Joy. I mean, a couple of times one of the elders, they kind of, how some people like make a certain couple their pet couple. Like we're the pet couple of the Brady's.
Oh yeah, we're going to take them under our wing.
Yeah, and he talked about studying with me and this and that, and I kept a soul patch though.
Yeah, I love soul patches.
But that was my one sign that I was still in my heart rebelling against this on some level. And I used to I started to have also friends that, had the marijuana, and I would partake every now and then, and a few times I hated the meetings with a passion. They're so boring to me. I mean, after going to college, and to me, just being around the most interesting and fascinating people, like the professors in particular, and then going to a meeting.
Yeah, it's redundant, it's mundane, it's banal, it's repetitive, it's all the opposites of what higher education is.
Yeah, it's dumbed down to like a 5th grade level too. It's not adult content matter at all. I don't think still to this day. It's not really adults.
No.
But, so I had to be high, a little bit buzzed or high to make it through the meetings, and I would tell Joy that I have back problems, right? So I would always get up at a certain paragraph or in the middle of I would get up in the middle of the public talk and in the middle of the Watchtower and go for a walk around the block.
And you would smoke some cannabis.
No, I wouldn't smoke like right there because obviously they'd smell it. But yeah, before I would go, I would take a couple of hits just to not want to, run out into traffic and kill myself, with the boredom. It was a matter of survival.
Yeah,
I had to.
This story just gets more and more out there, and I can't look away. I cannot look away. So keep going.
Remember the scene? Did you ever see Airplane?
Oh yes, Leslie Nielsen.
Right. So remember how he would start telling the story of his life, and then the person next to him would kill themselves or try to hang themselves or put gas on themselves.
It was so boring. Yeah.
So that's how I would feel at the meetings. I always think about that. I was like, at any meeting that I've been to in the last, almost 2 decades now, I've been like this close to killing myself every moment. I don't know how much longer do you want to go? We could continue later. I've still got energy, but
No, I think we should keep going. So you're going. Let me do another one of these unbelievable recaps. So it's a year or so has gone by. You've been with Joy. She's got you to go legit, at least on the surface. You shave your beard, you cut your hair, but you keep your little soul patch, which incidentally, a lot of men do this when they make a great change in their life. They'll use their hair, facial hair, to kind of mark it off. And women, in turn, when they divorce their husband, will oftentimes chop it all off or grow it out because it symbolizes some newfound freedom. So anyways, that was a little detour. And I'm sure you concur. So you keep the soul patch. You're thinking about jumping off a building to go to the meeting, so you have to smoke a little bit before you go. And you're doing all this. You're telling her you got back problems. And are you and Joy getting more serious at this point? Was there talk of marriage now?
Yeah. We did get engaged. I did propose marriage to her. Even the soul patch came off at some point.
Damn.
You know, her father actually was supposedly anointed. Her father, who was a decent man, passed away. I would say he's a decent man, but intellectually, not even, I don't know, advanced, maybe not even to get a driver's license. I don't know. He was that not intelligent and bright.
Right.
He was an extremely shallow and dull man. Perfect fodder for the society. Absolutely perfect. One of the most perfect, if I was an evil person wanting to robotize somebody, and enslave them mentally and physically, and saw him, it would be like, I'd be like salivating. Perfect robotic person. The possibility of him having a breakthrough mentally, if I were to beat him for all of my life, I couldn't beat sense to that man in terms of seeing a breakthrough of any personal kind or anything like that, or seeing through the Watchtower, whatever. So he's dead now, but he was nice though, and I shouldn't put him down too bad. So I asked his permission to, propose, and I proposed up at this place called Los Cerros Park, which is at the top of Palos Verdes, looking down one of the most beautiful views in all of LA County, I think. If you ever get a chance to go there, and we had this picnic, and I'm a weird person about picnics. I love having picnics with wine and stuff like that. Proposed to her there. She said yes. And we were like really, really affectionate with one another. I always have been with my girlfriends, and it seems like with every girlfriend I had, we always get like right there to almost having sex, and then not have it because I was a witness, obviously. But we did end up going, a little too far a couple of times, and me, like an idiot, between the two of us, right? You'd think that she would be the one that would want to confess, but she was like totally cool with like keeping it on the low down, and I'm like, no, we got no. We must,
You were so you were so programmed to confess, but here you had learned that in college you had learned that blood was. There was nothing wrong with taking blood, that you were an atheist for a while, then you realized that the witness thing was all a scam. Now you come back almost like a charade just to kind of, support your girlfriend or make peace with her, be a yes man there, and now all of a sudden your programming is kicking in and you got to go confess.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I always had a really intense conscience, and I always felt a lot of guilt and shame about any sin I ever committed. And I always felt the disapproving eye and pointing finger of God bearing down on me. So I could never do anything, even as a child, without confessing. And I could never live a double life. I couldn't do it. And here she was very, very used to living a double life, because that's like the only kind of life she ever lived as a witness. I figure, we confess and get forgiven, but the other thing too was, part of me wanted this, all right? Part of me wanted Joy to get disfellowshipped so I could leave. We could both just leave that church, but I didn't want to get disfellowshipped. So, the inconsistency of my thoughts and actions and feelings, it was like saying it right now, like I believed, yet I didn't believe. I could feel God's anger. I wanted to confess. Yet, like, secretly, I just kind of wanted to get joy out of the organization so we could leave together and be, one with this thing, right? Either both for or both against, and I wasn't really going for it. So I had this, dual feelings about the whole thing, going into that confession process. And, so they separated both of us, like I guess they do with judicial matters. And
oh yeah, that's a law enforcement technique. They have to meet with you separately.
Yeah, and so I don't know what's going on with Joy at all. I have no idea. And we stopped communicating for a little bit because I don't know, I can't remember exactly why. Maybe they told us to. I'm not sure. I can't really remember why. Not for a long period, like a week maybe at the most. And so at the end of mine, the jury is, we're going to disfellowship you. All right? And then I find out that Joy was not going to be disfellowshipped, but also they told her that she had to choose between either staying a witness or being with me, because apparently, either it had to be more than just in that like judicial interview process, but I was pretty open actually about my feelings and my opinions about a lot of different stuff, like the blood issue and so many things that I disagreed with.
Oh, so wait, hold on. So you told them about the blood issue and things you didn't agree with. It was a slam dunk it was a slam dunk to DFU.
Well, I mean, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that. No. You didn't know that. So on the other hand, Joy is playing the game or ratting you out or who knows what. Almost like at the end of 1984. Remember when Winston has to wish that the rats would be on his lover?
Yes. Oh my God!
Yeah. No, listen. Let me finish. So Winston has to wish the rats onto his lover's face to save himself, and it's the ultimate sellout to symbolize his love for Big Brother and his allegiance to the state.
Yeah, that is a beautiful comparison.
It's wild.
I've always it's funny that you bring that up, and of course 1984 is my favorite all-time novel. I've read it like 10 times, but I never actually applied that theme to this particular part of my life. I don't know why I've missed that, but I have, apparently. But, that's great. So, yeah, there's this point where we're, and actually, the other part was this. I broke up with her right before the Judicial Committee started. So, that was the other thing. I right coming down to the days of the meeting, I was so erratic and confused and inconsistent and angry about a lot of stuff. And I was angry that I couldn't shake this feeling of being judged by an angry God. I was angry that, I couldn't get Joy to leave the witnesses. I was, angry and confused about a lot of different stuff. And I had actually, of course, when I started dating Joy, and introduced her around my family, there was a repairing that had started, with my brother Danny and stuff like that. He had seen that Joy got me back to going to meetings, and he was approving and everything. And everybody generally liked Joy. I like Joy. We actually still talk every now and then. She's not a witness anymore. And she's married and has a kid now. So, anyway, so that was, she eventually did leave later, but not at that point. She was still, a faithful apologist at that point.
No. So ain't that a kick in the pants? So they DF you. She saves her skin and saves herself, and then later she goes and bails out again. Again, after all.
Right. Yeah. She marries a. I never met her husband, but she married a worldly guy, and she's not raising her child to be a JW. She is closer now to her disfellowshipped sister.
Well, that sounds like a happy ending to me.
Yeah, I mean, for her, it's for her, I think it's worked out really fine. Her mom associates with her still. So and she shares her child with her mother. I actually every now and then. Living in Long Beach, I would run into her mother. And I would always try to have a conversation with her, even though that she was. She would be like really uncomfortable and trying to get away from me and stuff like that. But her mom likes me quite a bit.
So let's So you got disfellowshipped at this point. She continues on.
Early 2004 is when I like February of 2004
is when you got disfellowshipped.
Like yeah.
Okay, so did you enjoy try to stay together? How did that work out?
Well, like I said, right going down to the point of actually having the judicial meetings, I broke up with her, and then, but she says, it's mutual, and so because we were fighting about the whole thing, and it occurred to me that also possibly played into me getting disfellowshipped as well. The fact that I would have sex with her and then break up with her, I remember when I told the brothers that I just remember the look on their faces. Really, really, I don't know if that, you would know. I was never an elder, so I was never on the other side of those judicial committees. But, I don't know. It occurred to me that probably played into. I don't know. I'm still surprised that they disfellowshipped me because we didn't go on doing it for long at all. We had sex a couple of times. I think only that's it. And we weren't wanting or anything about it. It's. We would have gone on and gotten married had I not been the idiot that I was. And I was spiritualizing everything again. I was back in my cult body and my cult mind to a large extent, yet I had this chunk of brain that I had gained, in a couple of years of college and worldliness, I guess. So it wasn't the full cult self-embodiment again, but it was enough of it to really mess me up and confuse me and, get me to do things that I wasn't following my heart anymore. I was acting like a programmed cult member, and my morality that I had gained in a couple of years was gone again. And so I was making these inconsistent, immoral, and unethical decisions. Like I considered the idea of going to the elders to be completely immoral on my part. It was a ridiculously stupid thing to decide to do. And I should have known better. I should have known better. I should have just kept that stuff to ourselves. Like a decent couple would have done, a normal couple would have done.
Well, and I have to, I gotta say, I've heard this regret expressed or verbalized a number of times over the years by people that said, "Why did I go to the elders?" My friend Greg Blassingame, I'm going to name names since you're naming names, who I still love and wish he wouldn't shun me to this point. Greg said that one time, "Why in the world did I tell the elders? Why? Because no good came out of it. It just made everything worse, stirred up trouble." And most of the time, that's what happens, and it certainly was the case in yours.
Yeah, I mean, I would say at this point, even in my life now, it's whatever, April 25th tomorrow, today, 2014, and the disfellowshipping is definitely the most significant negative event of my life, because it was the instantaneous death of everybody and everything I ever loved, all at the same time. It's like, everybody I knew and all of my family were all on a jet airliner, and they were all just thinking how much they hate me right as the plane just burst into flames and they all died instantly. And there's no chance of ever making up with them again, ever.
And
no chance at all.
It's so tragic. You're making me want to cry here. And we're talking about 10 years ago, right? This happened around 2004, or was it 2005? So some close to 10 years has gone. Yeah, so 10 years has gone by.
2004.
Yeah, which is it's early 2014. So 10 years has gone by, and yet you still remark, Shawn, you still make the comment, this was the worst thing that ever happened in my life. And I have to say that for me, it's been almost 2 years ago that I was disfellowshipped, and it was one of the greatest things that ever happened to me. And it's just bizarre, strange, I don't know. For me, to have such a different result or feeling, I guess would be a better way. Me to have a different impression or feeling. I'm so free, and I know you are to some degree going to agree with me, because you're happy, you're free-spirited, you're funny, but yet you're still sad over this event, and are you still haunted by it?
So much that you wouldn't believe it. I mean, it's come and gone over the years, because like in early 2004, when they came down with the decision, the thought occurred to me to appeal it. But I was in the middle of a semester. I mean, I had a shitload of work to do. I had a job. I was, into college. I was on my track in the university now, and I didn't have time. I didn't have time to stop and go through an appeal process, and these meetings were ridiculously long into the early hours of the morning. I mean, I just let it happen, and I thought, well, it's 10 meetings, and get reinstated really quick. And I didn't know how it would feel. It was weird. The night they announced it, I went to the meeting that night, not actually I didn't know they were going to announce it that night. I thought maybe I had a couple more days to appeal, and I thought it would probably have to go to Brooklyn and come back and all this stuff. And they didn't tell me they were going to announce it that night.
Well, they didn't. They also didn't do a good job of explaining it, because they're supposed to tell you this will be announced 1 week, after you don't appeal, the very next midweek meeting, we will announce this. Do you have any questions? They're supposed to tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they did, and I just didn't pay attention. Who knows? I don't even know. But I was having conversations with people and telling them I was going to talk to them later before the meeting. And then I'm sitting there, and they make this announcement.
Oh, my God. So you were blindsided.
It was like a million demons jumped into my brain at the same time as soon as they made that announcement. I'm like, what? And I'm just stunned, because the reality of it never had sunk in. I felt like I went through that whole process just kind of, I don't know, I had a lot on my mind, and, working. And I was working, doing sound and lighting for Marriott hotels at the time, and then I start getting on my computer in the days that followed and figuring out if there's something legally I could do, or, I called Brooklyn. I talked to Dan Sidlick, actually, a number of times. Dan was the one governing body that I knew better than anybody.
Yeah, I liked Dan Sidlick.
Yeah, I mean, he was in the personnel department too, and so he knew me, and I knew him, and he always called me Shawn, and I could call Bethel almost any time and get him on the line. And in the years that followed up until his death, I would always occasionally call him, and he would talk to me. There was one point where I asked him if there was anything that he could do about the disfellowshipping. I told him I thought it was unfair. I didn't quite do the appeal on time. They made the announcement. And he's like, well, let me review the case. Let me see if there is anything I can do, what I can do, or anything like that. And he hung up the phone, and it was, a couple of weeks. He called me back, and he's like, well, the best thing that, he's like, there have been cases where I've been able to do something. It doesn't look like I'm going to be able to do anything for you, Shawn. And the best thing for you to do is just, keep attending meetings, and we'll see if we can make this a really, really short comeback for you.
Okay. Oh my God. Hold on. I got to pause you again. You are you're blowing my mind again. Do you know how unusual this is? You're talking to one of the popes trying to get a special dispensation here. This doesn't happen. The normal person cannot do this. So here you're actually already DF'd. You're regularly calling Dan Sidlick, a member of the governing body, who was one of the more open-minded and laid-back ones, albeit. And here you're calling him. You're saying maybe you can do something for me. And he actually goes and pulls your file and clickety-clackety-clickety reads all your info and what the disfellowshipping summary was that the chairman had to type up and mail in the blue envelope. For those of you that are ex-elders out there or current elders, the blue envelope that you mailed in. So he looks all up your file and he says, well, I've been able to fix some of these in the past, but I can't help you, but just stick with it and we'll make sure that it's a short waiting period before you're reinstated. That is unbelievable. Yeah, it is.
And he never ever refused a call from me ever. Even after that conversation, I wasn't. I did keep going to the meetings after that, but I dwindled within probably weeks. I hated being there anyway. Before that, I was a yes, and then to go there and be treated as shunned was just more than I could bear. I hated the meetings, I hated the content, and I hated all the people there. And what was I going to do there for? What the hell was I? Why would I do that?
Wait, hold on. You hated the seats, the carpet, the decorations, the people, the cars, the parking lot, the location. Was there anything you didn't hate?
There was a little butterfly once that I saw land on the gate, and I didn't hate that butterfly.
Ah, okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah, and actually that wasn't the last. The other thing with Dan was that periodically I would call him, and one conversation I had that was great was that I'm like, this has been a couple of years now. I think at this point, after I was fellowshipped, or maybe it was in the same year. I don't know. It's hard to locate it right now time wise, but I said, well, Brother Sidlick, the problem with the reinstatement thing and why it hasn't been working is because I don't believe in this religion anymore. And I didn't even believe in it at the time I was a fellowship. And for several years, that. And now I'm disfellowshipped for fornication that I committed like 2 times, and yet I have this. So now I'm going to have a reputation as a fornicator for the rest of my life. And I'm like, Dan, am I a fornicator? And he's like, certainly not. Certainly not.
So you asked him, am I a fornicator? Well, look, Ray Franz said just almost the same thing in one of his 2 books. He says, you have a young person that makes a mistake and gets and commits fornication and gets DF'd. Then he gets married to the person and lives a respectable life for 30 years, but they still label him as a fornicator.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, go on.
And so that was it. And I had a couple of attempts in the couple of years following the disfellowshipping to try to come back, quotations come back, like I never went anywhere, but I just couldn't do it because it's just not me, and they are the last people in the world that I would ever want to be like in any way imaginable, and it would be such an act of dishonesty, to have done that, the reinstatement process, and I just couldn't do that. So I did, keep going to college. I graduated from college in 2007. I started teaching right away. I worked for Los Angeles Unified School District until 2011, and I lost my job on the day that they laid off 10,000 of us. Whoa,
that's a big layoff.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it was on the same day, but the same period. At the end of the spring in 2011, about 10,000 LA Unified teachers were laid off.
Well, and look, that was when California was having that terrible budget crisis, and of course, education always gets cut ridiculously. Whenever there's a lack of money, the first thing they do is pull education funds.
Yeah, I don't know, what went wrong, but I technically the problem was is that you're only allowed to have 1 write-up a year, or you can't have more than 2 write-ups in 1 calendar year, and I had gotten a write-up from some principal for like being rude or something like that, and I had one from less than a year previous to that, so they could technically fire me because I wasn't tenured or anything like that, and it's such a technicality. That was like it was getting fired. Really, I was fired, not laid off. Although I call it a layoff because it wasn't like I was fired for doing something. It's like they looked in my file and they thought, oh, okay, these 2 write-ups are technically only 11 months apart, so we can fire this guy, and the union did squat for me. But it felt like getting disfellowshipped again in 2011, and that was like a really, that was right before I started doing the AJWRB stuff, though.
So look, that's a perfect lead-in to what we're going to talk about next. Here you are, you're an educated man. You have, despite all the odds, you have put yourself through school after escaping this benighted cult, and here you are, you're qualified, you got a teaching credential. Yeah, okay, maybe you goofed up a little bit, they fired you, but now you're in a low point, and you take on this website job for Randy Waters, running the ARJWBR.org or whatever it's called. I always thought that those initials are unwieldy, my friend. They're very unwieldy.
Believe me, I've had that conversation a million times. I did try to change it at some point, and I got marked down. So.
Yeah. So back up. How did you meet Randy Waters? How did that relationship end up happening?
The order is is rapidly fading. Oh, the times they are a change.